Hey everyone, this is Lazy Raccoon, and today we're going to be coaching one of my friends who's trying to get into golds as a jungle and ADC main. And for this game, I believe it's Silver 2 Elo, and he's playing Amumu, so let's get started. First thing, for sure, you definitely don't want to start W. There's quite a few guides on OPGG you can look up. I usually start Q. Depending on the camp, I'd start E2 or the route I'm going to take. If I end up going for Wraiths right away, E can be pretty good, but the damage on level Q just makes a lot of sense, especially since you're getting a leash right away too. And then you'll hit the level 2 and then you can opt for E. So when I play Amumu jungle, which is not very often, I'll usually take my leash if I'm on this side, go to Wolves, because having 3 enemies hit you allows for your passive on your E to drop on the cooldown, and then you head right to Wraiths, pick up the red, and then scout for a gank, top or mid. You could even scout for a gank on mid right after Wraiths too. But Gromp isn't the best idea, so we'll see if he opts to go for Gromp. So when we're melee champions in the jungle, definitely, like, aside from not starting Q, we want to be kiting in between autos back, and that way the Gromp or the blue buff takes a little bit more time to auto attack you. And since we're this low, we want to be popping all of our potions. Getting invaded here would be really unfortunate. Having the W always active is pretty bad. I mean, we do have the blue buff, so our mana stays fairly neutral, but we could be maxing it out here. As well as if you didn't have blue buff, that'd be a pretty big blunder. So it looks like we're going straight for Wraiths. Or for red buff. Not a bad idea to keep us more sustained in the jungle. And we also don't have E, so we wouldn't really be able to go for Wraiths here. So at this point, we want to be constantly looking at the minimap. How's our top doing? How's our mid doing? We don't really have any plans to go bot side anytime soon. But we still want to be hovering them every time we can, especially when we're walking to another camp. So in that case, if we were kiting this red buff, walking, say, to right here, walking back to here, it'll force the red to move, and it'll take longer to auto you, and then we can also walk back over here, then start a trade, walk back over here. So we still could have done one of the buffs. We have Smite coming up in 6 seconds. And now that you have your E, you're able to use it a lot more effectively. We could have actually cleared the Wraiths pretty quickly there. And backing just for a Ruby Crystal, which is probably what we're going to get, or the mana. Oh, right, the Hunter's Machete. So, not a bad recall, so that we're able to get the early experience from the Machete passive pretty early. I'm not sure how the Machete passive works, actually. I don't know if it's the experience you gain from jungle camps, or you get more lifesteal. Oh, we can't actually see here. So, using your smite when you're at full health is a pretty big waste of smite here, because we want to use it to stay sustained in the jungle. So using it there is really, really inefficient. So there's not much we can do. We could look for a counter gank or go for the Scuttle Crab. I would start hovering topside just because of how pushed in topside is. And although he has it warded, there is some gank potential. And it looks like we didn't even know they were fighting because we weren't hovering the map at all. Hovering topside, mid, bot side, any lanes as much as possible is really, really big. I think if we had actually hovered the topside there, we would have skipped race altogether and just started running topside. So now mid's pushed in pretty good. This would be a really good time to gank. So it's basically too late at this point. Mid's already resetting now. So since Elise has done Scuttle probably a minute, 2 minutes ago, we're also recalling Raid Invasion. Questionable. Elise is probably bot side looking to set up Dragon. And now the whole team can assume safely that you're going to be hitting Dragon, especially after recalling in their vision. So here, we want to keep a very, very close eye on the map. That way we can react if Elise is spotted on the Tribarsh ward, and then we can react immediately. Jin is pathing bot. So this would be a pretty good time to hover down here and look for the gank. I'm pretty sure Jin used flash, but it's hard to tell since we weren't watching. Using mana to kill Scuttle isn't the best idea. We do gain most of our mana back, but let's see how he does this. So, good idea with the engage. Usually if you just keep walking forward. So if you're about to gank mid and it's in a position like that, if you just keep walking this way, it forces him to either react badly and force a flash when you haven't used Q yet, or he'll have to walk this way. By using the Q here, we still don't know if he has flash, so it's fair to use the Q here because when Mordekaiser ganked we weren't able to tell. But if you just keep walking here, right here, you'll actually catch up with him. And if you keep walking and say you're here and he is about right here, he'll have to flash this way and you'll be able to hit your Q very, very easily. So now we know he has no flash, he's staying in lane, and we can capitalize this by simply just going right around and back. And we still have flash, so there's almost no way he can dodge that. Running at him like this allows him to see you here, but if you went the other way, you would actually be right here, and look at that difference. Say you walk that distance versus that distance, this puts you in the position to be right next to him, where here you'll have to kind of, like, although he has no flash, you'll have to Q, and he does have the possibility of dodging. Now flashing here doesn't make too much sense. Malzahar backs off. So smiting here again, not a great idea when already near full health. So Dragon is still up 7 minutes in. Grabbing blue buff, hovering, getting wolves. Pretty good idea here. I can't tell if Mordekaiser has TP. He's probably dead here. So we can see that the enemy Nautilus is recalling Quinn staying in lane. We could actually set up a pretty good dive here. If you... Oh, that's unfortunate. It was very odd that Elise was soloing that, especially since Nautilus was basing there. So if the enemy Quinn stays in lane, we could still set up a really good dive here. Nautilus is probably right around here, and Elise just based. Just one of those opportunities to look for. The most experience you can gain is from topside golems and wraiths, or whichever side you're on the golems. So if we can clear those as much as we can, that would be ideal. We can't really stick around topside too much since it's already lost lane. But then we want to be grabbing those buffs around the map, and just golems and wraiths in general, and helping out the other side of the map. So here we want to grab a pink, and since the enemy team is mostly AD, those boots would actually be very, very good. So in this case, we don't really want to go right to red. I would opt that we go to golems right away, and that way we can start making our way to mid side and help mid out, because we need to lead either mid or bot at this point. So we end up going topside. He's not quite killable. With Amumu, you want to start getting into fights where you can engage yourself in multiple people rather than using it for one player. Really unfortunate. It's never worth fighting a Tryndamere like that unless you're saving your Q for when he ends up ulting. That was a close one. Oh, looks like we don't get him. So unfortunately, because we tried to fight Tryndamere there, we wasted a lot of time. We didn't get any of the jungle camps. And now we're heading bot side, which is pretty questionable right now because we still don't have blue buff. Mid needs to be covered. Not sure what the point of that Q was. So that's good, placing yourself in between the enemy and his escape. And this should be free at this point. Always give it to your mid laner. Amumu doesn't need kills to do well in the team fights. So bot side is fighting. It looks like we don't even notice. Like I said before, as jungler, you gotta be hovering those lanes as much as possible. And I think if we had reacted right away, like right here, we need to be looking, what's bot doing? They're trying to set something up, so we want to see that and help them out there. I think we just head back to farming here. here it would be pretty good to head bot and just clear the minion waves and then head back to farming, because they already saw you, so it's not like you're trying to hide where you are. So at this point, mid's pushed, bot's resetting, and we can't do anything top. In this case, we just want to start hard farming and start setting up when the next objective is going to be. So Drake spawning in about 45 seconds. We want to be clearing this as fast as we can. We're still going to be a little bit late to Drake fight at this point in time, if they all respond to that. Yeah, it's already in 14 seconds now. Being topside here is huge disadvantage. And since we saw a loose spot, she's probably going to kill Kate here. There's almost nothing we can gain from being top. Pink ward would be a perfect pickup. We also want to be swapping out our trinket to the sweeper. We don't really need wards as a Amumu, but we want to be clearing wards so we can sneak engages, catch them out, get picks. So here, ball lane's pushed. Oh, wow, Lisa's right in there. So we want to try and not use our ultimate as much as possible on single targets. Here it looks like we can catch Nautilus out though. I'm surprised Alistar didn't go for that. But at this point you want to start that dragon right away. Back up to clear it out. I wouldn't even try and kill that pink ward, it's just a waste of time. Especially when Malzahar, someone else can be autoing it, and then you want to pull it out. This is pretty unfortunate since Malzahar wants to fight this. He's probably going to die from it. This would be a huge mistake, giving up the dragon like that to try and get kills. Puts your whole team at a disadvantage. At this point, your whole team is going to be now weak from forcing trades, from tanking dragon, and now the Elise is probably right around below her red buff, and she's going to be able to get back into this pretty soon. So here we want to... So when you see an opponent engaging on your team, especially someone with a dash and a gap closer, they're coming this way. If we walk to meet them here, that means your Q will be extremely linear if you decide to use it. Whereas if you're using it here, judging where he's going to be, he could have flash, he could do his little hop dash thing. That's pretty hard to hit. So right here, we will almost always miss this. And you actually could have just left it and not queued because Quinn might have gone over that trap, and just saving your Q is CC in itself because they're going to think Mumu still has his Q, I need to be careful. Whereas if you use it and miss, they'll just dogpile on you. And like I said before, Elise was at her red buff just below, and now she's back in the fight while we're all low, having tanked the dragon as well as skirmishing, and we're probably going to lose this dragon. So from before, trying to get those kills when you could be like getting the free dragon, like it's essentially free at this point. You should be pinging, since you're jungler, try and get everyone on the same page for neutral objectives. Ping that dragon. Even if Malzahar dies here, you should all be getting the dragon anyways. So definitely the biggest mistake I've seen so far. So they still aren't on Drag. Malzahar is getting priority mid, and Kate's getting priority bot. So we can actually just straight up go do the drag because Mordekaiser's there, as is. We do need someone. So here you want to pull it out. You don't even want to be hitting the dragon necessarily, because you risk at least stealing it. Luckily we were quick on that, but pulling it out here is just such an easy thing to do. Like in this instance, Elise is within steal range, so it is a 50-50. And just pulling it out here, especially waiting for the Jin ult while pulling it out, lets you do two things at once. And then once it's up here, they have almost zero chance of getting that unless Elise has flash or she's able to properly get over the wall. So we picked that up. We're actually in a pretty good position to fight this here. They're picked out. Using the ultimate there is almost never worth it. As a mostly Diana main myself and Ori main, you want to be looking to use those ults, those big hitter ults that affect everyone with their AoE. You want to be saving that for very good moments, because getting the Q on Jin here almost guarantees his death. He will have to flash to get out of this, assuming that Mordekaiser turns on Jin as well. But we can also see the enemies coming in, and our Q is up in 7 seconds. If we had our ult here, that would be huge. We most likely can pick up the Nautilus here. And we can actually head straight over to Rift. We can get lane priority and then head right over to Rift. I think they're on it too. Trinimir's definitely on it. He gets it anyway, so getting mid here is pretty good. I don't think you'll be able to actually get it, but getting a lot of damage on here is really helpful. Especially having Alistar come in here with his mastery passive. So here, staying here doesn't do anything. You want to be resetting and picking up your top camps as quick as possible. And so now we want to look at the score and think, who should we be playing around? Our only carry right now is Malzahar. Caitlyn is close to popping off. She's a little bit behind. But at this point in the game, you want to think, okay, Malzahar's ahead. Let's use this to our advantage. We have mid tower. We want to be starting to get some double kills. Top lane can't possibly be won unless the whole team is sent, most likely, and it's just very scrambly. But we can see that bot lane's pushing in. I don't think they have flash. It's hard to tell because no one times them. But once we start getting some double kills, especially onto Kate, we can really start taking over this game. We want to get that bot turret and get priority in bot so we can start getting every single dragon from here on. Hard to see if Tryndamere has a bounty at the moment. Let's see. Too slow. Getting the bounty on Tryndamere isn't really worth it. I think he could... I don't think he'd be able to live, but we're wasting a lot of resources. We're giving up a lot of pressure bot side. So here we want to be resetting with one of our lanes. Bot just reset from, well, they just spawned. So if we reset here, grab an item, we can come right back to lane and hover as we kill camps. Hover with the bot side. And as bot side pushes into the tower, we can either set up a dive. But since they use Rift mid, then yes, we want to respond right away. Engaging like that, not the best idea. You guys should be able to kill him here. CC chain him. Ulting is not good here. He used it anyways. So just one player is down on their team. I can't tell if bot's pushing into us. We need one of the solo laners to start hitting there. Preferably Malzahar. We'll see if he actually does. So at this point, taking the blue buff from Malzahar is pretty detrimental. We should almost never do that. And I think the reason why we're opting to take the blue buff here is because we're using W so much that it's draining our mana when we don't really need to be using it. Amumu's sole job in most of the games he plays is to funnel as many kills and as much resources as he can into your carry, who in this point of the game is Malzahar. Because on Amumu you don't need damage, you just need to be there and you need to stay alive to preferably get off 2 Qs and your ultimate and just completely set up your team. This is risky because we don't know where their bot lane is. We see Jin top and Tryndamere bot. Making plays like that isn't really worth it, especially when you don't have anyone with damage around you. And it actually baited Caitlyn. And I think it kind of, indirectly baits Malzahar too. Kind of an int there. So now we know Dragon's in 30-40 seconds. We got the Thornmail. So their carries are Quinn, Tryndamere, and that's basically it at this point. So building the Thornmail here is really, really good. It's even a better idea than getting those boosts, because having that right now is a close to perfect buy. And you just get more value out of that than having the upgraded boost at this exact moment. But now we want to be running straight to that dragon. It's going to be hard since Tryndamere lane swapped. So as soon as we see someone, yeah, we just want to be pinging them. That camp's probably gone. So we want to be helping the Malzahar as much as possible in these cases. Luckily, Alistar peeled quite well. And Mordekaiser died top to Jin. Kate's going to be hitting top. This is pretty risky because it gives up the dragon. We really also need a solo laner mid side, or bot side, I mean. But our team is very, very out of position for this dragon fight here. So it's hard to face check here. You can't do too much until your team is there. Yeah, they already get it. Usually when dragon's about to spawn, like 30 seconds prior, even a minute prior, I ping it quite heavily. I ask if someone can ward it. If I'm the jungler, I'll hover that area and I'll try and get the laners to push out mid and bot side, so that way we can at least react and hover without having to worry about our minions getting pushed into our tower. Like their minion wave killing ours and then getting into our tower. We want to eliminate any kind of pressure we can before heading into these neutral objectives, so that we can stall at the objectives for longer if we need to. So since Kate's bot side, we can't really pressure Baron. Just going for a camp here is pretty fine. I'm not sure if this is a good idea here, but as soon as we see that, we want to start hovering. Looking at the minimap time and time again, like, should become a habit as a jungler. It's almost the only way to climb at that point, once you hit silver gold. Not a lot of kill pressure here. It's a little bit of a waste of time. Clearing Scuttle could be a lot better here, just so you're not sharing XP with 2 other people. And now, in a way, we effectively baited our team by pressuring them. We pressured top with 3 people, and since we don't see any of their members, there's a very good chance that they're all going to start dogpiling top. Good ult though, getting all 4. Using the Q like that while Malzahar was ulting Tryndamere, pretty big mistake, because now there's no way we can CC the Tryndamere after. And I think you guys are all going to lose this fight. Malzahar is going to do a lot of damage. But he just can't stay alive from 3 people like that. So getting the boots here really good. And we can't really do too much other than farming wraiths. We have a lot of pressure mid, but we lost all that pressure bot from Kate 1v1 and Quinn. They should be able to, yep, they pick up the kill here. Farming camps is fine here since we didn't really need to be there since it was almost a guaranteed kill. Here again, we want to leave the blue buff unless, although Malzahar did go top, we still need to give that blue buff to him if we want to win these games. This we are actually in a fairly good position to turn it. Unfortunately, we're in a bad position in general. I would opt out of fighting here, but our whole team is collapsing. So Nautilus hooks you in. You could actually just turn this immediately. Running from Nautilus doesn't make any sense. He's not going to be able to kill you. And now you're out of the fight. He effectively got you right out of the fight. So it's good keeping an eye on the Tryndamere, trying to peel. Good Q. So we still haven't ulted yet, a little bit of a surprise. So in these fights, like as when Nautilus was chasing us, we want to be thinking, rather than, oh, a champion is fighting me, we want to be thinking, does this champion do damage? What threat do they pose? What threat do they pose to my carry? And in this case, our carry is top lane, but in that immediate situation, our Kate and Mordekaiser was our carry. So we want to be thinking, how can we disable their carries and enable our carries? And letting Nautilus zone us completely off of that was probably under the mindset of, this is just a champion I need to get away from. Rather than thinking, Nautilus actually doesn't do any damage to me, I can walk right through him. And it can be hard to think of that in the middle of the fight too, especially when you're kind of surprised by some sort of engage in the jungle. Getting the MR here doesn't make too much sense. Abyssal Mask, I believe, would be a really good item here because it enables your team to do more magic damage since it gives your team magic penetration. And since your carry is Malzahar and Mordekaiser, then you want to be letting them do all the damage. As well as you don't really need MR here because they only have the Elise. So we just want to be staying on drag. We still don't have our ult yet. Get that dragon. Miss smite, but at least we were able to get on that, and then we can get back right in the fight. We have our ult in 6, so we want to be constantly hovering. Now we basically have full control of this. We need to send one player back to go top, but now we want to be hard shoving and see if we can get an inhibitor off of this. Oh, nice. That was a really good Q, especially since it... Oh, there we go again. I think you're dead, though. Yeah, but it does allow our team to most likely pick up the inhib here. So I would say definitely worth. That was a good catch. So sending the support back to cover is never a good idea. Well, I wouldn't say never, but very rarely, especially in this case, because he's picking up solo XP and gold, which he doesn't need at all. I mean, no one was able to base. I think Malzahar would have been able to base there, just because you had the auto attacks from Kate. It's almost impossible to control who's going to base, but I would still type in chat, need one to base, and in that case it would be Kate. So, Dragon is in about 3 minutes, I think, 2 minutes. Clearing the top side of the map would be ideal here, and pinging them not to fight, so that way you can set up the top side so it pushes into them. Clear the top side of all your own camps, and that way you can just stay around bot side for the next 2 minutes. Looks like we have Baron pressure here, actually, since two of them are dead. That's actually a really good micro I like to do a lot in my games, is I'll sweep around, hit the wards, and let the AD carry or the mid carry pick up the gold for that ward. I often do that when I place pinks. I let them get the kill on the ward or sweepers. Just little things that add up, and if you do them consistently over every game, you'll be able to focus on other things since you'll naturally already do that thing, and it becomes a habit. So Malzahar pushing here is actually very risky. You already have the inhib, so him being under kill threat basically loses you any Baron pressure you're going to gain from that. So resetting here is really unfortunate because now you have to decide if you want to keep pushing as 4, well now as 3 because you now have to decide to help Malzahar, or all resetting with Caitlyn, because if you don't have 5 and you're not getting the full use out of your push, it can be very hard and very risky because you end up losing your Baron buff. So in this case, because we lost a player and Kate base, so it was essentially 3v3, maybe even 4. Good that you're pinging there. We can't use this Baron push right now. And we lost another because of that. Being on the same page is absolutely massive in this game, and it's one of the hardest things about solo queue. So since Kate base, it was the wrong decision, but because of that, it's not worth losing the Baron buff and losing kills than just forcing a push as 3. You lose a little bit of time by everyone resetting, but at least then you can buy items, and then you can all come back and push together. Going in for that engage wouldn't have done anything. Tryndamere can just get away from that, and you also don't have any damage follow-up. And we see that Drake is in less than a minute. This again is when we want to be hovering as much as we can bot side. And in fact, we should be setting up. We shouldn't even, at this point in the game, we shouldn't even be looking at the top side. Like, right now it's going to start slow pushing anyways, because the waves are going to collapse, I think right around here. And since they collapse there, your wave is going to come to the collapsed waves faster than their wave, and it's going to be slightly larger and then start slow pushing. So you can actually completely leave this. In fact, you should, because hard shoving it will actually make it push less if you tend to leave it. So then you should be pinging as much as you can for the both of you to be heading down, pushing out mid on the way if it isn't already with your super minions, and setting up that dragon fight, because now it's starting to come down to just these dragon fights. You have the Baron buff. If you win this dragon fight, even if you lose, you still have the pressure of top pushing after at that point. And even if you stall out the bot drag fight, you can just push that bot side wave and start pressuring that tower and this tower, even without even going for dragon, and just stalling the game out. But it looks like we do both group as fast as we can. The waves do actually crash in the middle, so everything I said didn't really matter. So here, it actually would be a pretty good idea just to go around and cheese this way, because they're all focused on this area. If we can get in when they're kind of trying to group up, but they don't have vision of everywhere else, we can set our team up really well. So in these fights, we want to save our Q to peel the Tryndamere. And here we want to ult. This would be such a good time to ult. Tryndamere is halfway through his ult. If we ult, it disables all three of them. So ulting, we ulted a little bit late. Using the Q there was perfect though, because it peeled the Malzahar. But even though the team wasn't completely ready to react here, it would have froze their entire team. Your team was walking this way, and Malzahar most likely would have had at least one of his abilities off of cooldown. And I think you guys could have won the fight right off of that just by ulting right there. Even right there, that would have been perfect. Looking for those 3-man ults is critical. Just ulting the Nocturne and even just forcing the Nocturne off isn't the greatest idea. It's hard to see how much health Gwyn has here. He does end up dying, so I think that's why we ended up opting for that. I didn't quite see his health because it wasn't hovered. And here we have mid pushing. We want to be looking, seeing if they're going to reset. We don't want to be chasing here. We want to be heading right back to Dragon. So as a Amumu, even though you want to be on the Dragon, we can actually head right down here and zone anyone we see off of it, and we can still have a chance to queue over to get the Dragon over the wall. So here, this is actually perfect. You're all grouped as a team. You have all 5 of you up in this area. If all of you head on that boss side, you can start pushing it out quite heavily. You can get that tower within the next 30 seconds, build up a wave so that you can take over that next tower, and you can actually threaten the inhibitor here since you also have mid lane pushing. So the team decides to not really do anything. Going for the buffs here is pretty good. It's actually even better to go for these buffs here while one player pushes that wave. But you all want to be staying tight, so like Malzahar pushing here isn't a good idea, because now if he dies, you guys can't push anymore. And I think he is going to die. He does pick up one, but it's Jin, so it doesn't matter that much. You guys can probably turn this. Oh yeah, Tryndamere didn't even have ult, I think. So this is actually perfect. I think you guys can win the game almost right off of here. Mordekaiser's pushing into the tower. This is when you all want to stay grouped as much as you can. There's only 4 of you, and you only have about 30 seconds before you can actually do anything in their base. This is a little slower than I thought. So this would be a great time to dive. You have all 5 of you. Wait, who's the... Yeah, the Malzahar is there. There's all 5 of you there. This would be the best time to dive. It's 5v2, and if you guys get the double kill, even if you lose one, they're still only going to have 3 that are spawning soon, and there will be 4 of you into their base, pressuring their base, and they won't be able to do anything off of here. Yep, so we missed the Q, unfortunate. I think we're going to get a kill. Not quite. Team was on different pages here. So because we missed that double kill, now their whole team is going to be up, and diving here is too late. Since their whole team had spawned, diving there forced you in a bad position, and although we killed the tower, now it's pretty risky because they're full health. They've bought whatever items they can, and they're back in the fight, quite strong. So we want to be peeling the ADC. Good Q. This, you don't even need to ult here. I don't think you do. Stay on that ADC. And then we should be forcing this inhib. I think we can just end right here, yeah, with 4 of them down. Awesome. So, a few things I noticed. One of the biggest things I would say for improvements is I noticed that you didn't look at the map whatsoever. Like here and there, but looking at the mini-map while clearing camps and while heading to camps. If you do that and you're looking at mid lane, at top lane, at bot lane, you're able to anticipate where to go much faster rather than deciding in the heat of the moment. And then even just looking at lane, like it sucks looking at top lane and seeing that your team, your top laner is 100 HP and you could have helped them but you didn't just because you weren't looking at the map. So there's lots of cases, and going forward there will be countless cases where you could put yourself in a better position if all you did was look at the map and anticipate where to go. So that's pretty big. For a micro thing, using Smite and kiting the camps effectively. I don't like how the Smite was used when Amumu was full health. It's just a waste of getting the health bonus. So that's something to think about, as well as kiting them. Just standing there autoing just allows you to take far more damage than you need to, especially for free. And you could risk getting invaded in the future, whereas you can sustain yourself a lot more effectively by kiting the camps. 3, little bit more of a macro thing, but always look when the dragon is spawning. Like ask yourself, when is the dragon spawning? If it's 130 away, that's when you want to start setting it up. 130 at the latest is when you want to start heading there and setting up dragon, clearing vision, like denying vision, setting up your own pink wards, setting up pick potentials. And so that was a pretty big thing. And then the 4th is quite a bit of a micro mechanic, but it's anticipating where they will move or flash and setting yourself up to close the gap before you use your CC or flash. And that way you can either force them to use flash where you don't have to, and you can use your Q in a very linear fashion and directly hit them almost every time. Otherwise they have to flash awkwardly or sidestep, which also slows down their movement, so you can get even closer. But a lot of little things like that'll come over time. So those are the 4 points I would like to point out for this game. So I hope this helps. Thanks for watching.